of which that APPO has members here in Accra to and make important decisions mentally friendly manner. There is a man who is championing the unique agenda of APPO. He is flying high the flag of APPO in the global marketplace. To deliver the welcome remarks for us, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Secretary General of APPO, His Excellency Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim. Let's clap for him as he comes.
Your Excellency, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, Minister of Energy of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Deputy Minister of Energy, the Chair of the Ghana Petroleum Commission, Mr. Stephen Sechere Abankwa, Mr. Egbert Fabio Jr., CEO of the Ghana Petroleum Commission, Mr. Joseph Dazi, Managing Director of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, delegates from APPO member countries, my colleagues from the APPO Secretariat, our resource persons, everyone who has contributed to the organization of this roundtable, in particular staff and management of the Labaji Beat Hotel, as well as the staff of the Petroleum Commission of Ghana, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you all to the APPO GPC organized roundtable with the theme towards zero routine gas flaring and lower fugitive methane emissions in APPO member countries' oil and gas operations, which is graciously hosted by the Ghana Petroleum Corporation. Permit me, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to express our collective appreciation to the government and good people of the Republic of Ghana, the Ministry of Energy and the Ghana Petroleum Commission for the hospitality accorded to all delegates since our arrival in this beautiful city of Accra. And thank you, GPC, for hosting this very important roundtable on a subject of great consequence to the African oil and gas industry, namely climate change and energy access. The objective of this roundtable is to bring oil and gas operators and regulators from APPO member countries together to share experiences in various methodologies, technologies, and regulatory frameworks in dealing with the challenges of gas flaring and fugitive methane emissions, with a view to enhancing our understanding of how to handle these challenges. Our commitment to pursuing programs aimed at zero routine gas flaring and minimizing fugitive methane emissions in our member countries' oil and gas operations is targeted at 1, reducing emissions and thereby contributing to alleviating environmental challenges, and by implication, working towards achieving net zero in emissions to the atmosphere. B, saving energy that is currently being wasted in flares for the use of our teeming hundreds of millions who have no access to energy. Put differently, Africa must not be flaring gas when nearly a billion people live without access 600 million have no access to the city. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for too long, our national oil and gas operators, as well as regulators, have been operating in silos. Our NOCs have looked up to international oil companies and international oil service companies outside of Africa for leadership, partnership, and collaboration. We have relied massively on foreign technology for the operations of our industry. We have depended heavily on foreign financing for our oil and gas projects. And we have put so much faith in foreign markets for our oil and gas to the extent that some 3/4 of a century after a number of African countries have started producing oil and gas, 75% of the oil that we produce and 45% of the gas that we produce are exported outside of Africa at a time when a vast majority of our people live in energy poverty. All this must change in the light of the global energy shift away from fossil to renewable energies, euphemistically called energy transition. If we are to continue to benefit from the huge resource endowments that God has given to our countries at a time when those on whom we have been nearly completely dependent for operations of the industry have resolved to abandon what has become the mainstay of our national economies, then we also need to change the operational model of the industry as we have known it. If Africa must get out of poverty, it must find a way to make energy accessible to a vast majority of its people. No country in the contemporary world has been able to conquer poverty and uplift the living standards of its people without making energy accessible to a vast majority of its people. I look forward to very, very fruitful deliberations on the methodologies, technologies, and regulatory frameworks that our member countries use to address these challenges. Before I conclude, I would like to give you an update on a project of particular interest to all of us in APPO and indeed the African oil and gas industry. I am speaking about the Africa Energy Bank, a joint project being promoted by the APPO and Afri-Exim Bank. I'm pleased to announce, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that we have reached advanced stage in our preparations towards the takeoff of the bank. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Cairo, where we had a close-out meeting on the negotiations on the founding documents of the bank, namely the establishment agreement, the charter of the bank, and the host country agreement. In the first week of June, I will return to Cairo for the signing of the documents by the founding members of the bank, namely APPO and Afri-Exim Bank. On the selection of the bank's headquarters, I'm pleased to say that the Republic of Ghana is a main contender for the host of the Africa Energy Bank headquarters, and that the headquarters inspection team was in Accra from Sunday to this morning, where the team inspected the proposed headquarters building. They left this morning to inspect other proposed headquarters in Nigeria, in Cotonou, and in Algeria. Regarding financing of the bank, we have received payments from a number of our member countries even before the bank has formally taken off. Moreover, we have received interest to invest in the bank from outside the continent, particularly from national oil companies from the Middle East. We are confident that the bank shall take off before the end of the third quarter of this year. And we are also confident that with its takeoff, we will all see a change in the course of the African oil and gas industry. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Please, another round of applause for the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization. Thank you very much, His Excellency, Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim. For the oil and gas industry to advance, as we all desire, it is very important that the national oil companies and the regulators work so much together. Once that is done, I guarantee you there is a future for the oil and gas industry in any jurisdiction. It is for that reason that has lent support to the Petroleum Commission as we organize this program with APPO. I would invite the newly appointed CEO of Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Joseph Abuabudazi, to give us a goodwill message. Let's clap for him as he comes.
His Excellency Dr. Farouk Ibrahim, Secretary General of APPO, Honorable J.K. Sani, Deputy Minister of Energy, representing the Honorable Minister of Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempe, Mr. Stephen Sesure, Board Chairman of Petroleum Commission, Mr. Egbert Fabel, CEO of Petroleum Commission, Directors of Petroleum Commission, Directors from APPO Secretariat, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you warm greetings from the management and staff of Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. It is my utmost pleasure to be part of today's crucial Roundtable conference organized by APPO in collaboration with Ghana Upstream Regulator, Petroleum Commission. As Ghana's national oil company, GNPC is proud to belong to APPO fraternity, partnering about 18 other member states to champion the sustainability and responsible management of abundant hydrocarbon resources of the African continent. Our commitment to environmental stewardship is important now more than ever, and this quest to tackle gas flaring and methane emission is a venture in the right direction, as we all aim to reduce our carbon footprint and continue to a cleaner and healthier Africa. The rise in greenhouse gas emission and its attendant effects on climate cannot be overemphasized. hence the growing global emphasis on climate change mitigation. The oil and gas industry, to which we members of APPO belong, has a critical role to play in steering from harmful practices that endanger our environment and cause climate change. And this is the core of our 2 days gathering on the theme towards zero routine gas flaring and lower methane emission in APPO oil and gas operations. This forum presents a fantastic opportunity for collaboration, bringing together the expertise and resources of APPO member states. The International Energy Agency in 2020 estimated that the global efficiency in methane flaring at 92% compared to the popular assumption that 98% of the methane within flare gas is destroyed through combustion. According to Graham Sustainability Institute, majority of flare vastly underperform, leading to a 5-fold increase in their climate impacts. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and so we must find better. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and so we must find better and meaningful ways to mitigate fugitive emission by reducing the overall volume of flaring activities across APPO states. We must find new ways and technologies to increase flaring efficiencies as well as reduce the number of unit flares, which contribute equally to methane emissions. For our government, the priority has been to recover all produced gas to secure the country's energy needs in order to boost industrialization. Hence, the zero gas flaring policy GMPC and its EMP partners have also been intentional. Hence, GMPC and its EMP partners have also been intentional about gas flaring in our producing fields and continue to adopt cutting-edge strategies to mitigate routine gas flaring. Such measures include close flaring and hydrocarbon blanketing on offshore Cape 3 Point, which is Sankofa Jinyame field, as well as other flare recovery technologies on the Jubilee and 10 fields. GMPC and its joint venture partners are committed to eliminating all routine flaring on the 10 field by 2025, with the aim of ending the practice of flaring to produce on the 10 field. Let us leverage this platform to explore innovative technologies, form lasting partnership through open dialogue to promote African oil and gas sector while maintaining our commitment to environmental sustainability. I believe that some of the ideas proposed here will serve as useful talking points in our discussions over the next 2 days as we expand further on the theme at hand. May we all have fruitful and constructive deliberation. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. The regulator of Ghana's upstream petroleum industry is pursuing its mandate in earnest. Oh, Chief, you don't want me to introduce you? Oh, I know Chief is going to run to me. Anyway, may I present to you the Chief Executive Officer of the Petroleum Commission, Ghana. You know, he's my senior brother, you can see that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Edward. Honorable John Kobna Abam Abuasani, who is a member of parliament for Impoho constituency in the western region of the Republic of Ghana, and who represents the Honorable Deputy Minister for Energy, Honorable Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, in your capacity as the Honorable Deputy Minister for Energy. Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim, Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization. Representative of the Honorable Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation of the Republic of Ghana. Delegates from APPO member countries present, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Joe Dazi, the Chairman of the Governing Board of the Petroleum Commission, Mr. Stephen Sechabankwa, distinguished heads of various national oil companies, IOCs, and also service companies, as well as institutions in the petroleum sector, representatives from academia and civil society organizations, members of the board, management, and staff of the Petroleum Commission, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to welcome you all to this roundtable workshop on gas flaring and fugitive methane emissions, jointly organized by the African Petroleum Producers Organization, APPO, and the Petroleum Commission Ghana. The governing board, management, and staff of the Petroleum Commission are pleased to host APPO and all delegates to this roundtable on a very important subject matter here in Accra. Ladies and gentlemen, as we gather in Accra for deliberations on the subject of this roundtable, I have no doubt in my mind that delegates and all participants herein gathered are aware of the huge responsibilities we all bear at our various levels of operations in Africa's upstream petroleum value chain. Whether as ministers, chief executives of NOCs, regulators, or supranationals, we have a duty to discuss and come out with plans and strategies, amongst others, for a common African front on our joint and several obligations in the prevention and or reduction of gas flaring and fugitive emissions in Africa's upstream petroleum operations. The same level of awareness can be found in the streets of the continent, from Abuja, Kampala, Tripoli, Luanda, Kinshasa, Brazzaville, N'Djamena, Cotonou, Dakar, Niamey, and beyond. Questions on Africa's contributions to climate change and the energy transition are evolving. The African people look to us to come out of this roundtable with far-reaching responses to the subject to be discussed. Ladies and gentlemen, the choice of Ghana as a venue for this roundtable is welcome because it provides our stakeholder companies and institutions opportunities to engage extensively with other jurisdictions on the implications of emerging trends in the oil and gas industry, policy interventions, and the effects of activities of the oil companies on the environmental, social, and economic prospects of our respective countries ought to be on the front burner at this roundtable. The choice of Ghana is also a recognition of the role Ghana has been playing to foster fruitful collaboration and partnerships among the 16 member countries in the exploration, production, and utilization of our petroleum resources to promote energy security, sustainable development, and economic diversity in Africa since joining APPO about 2 years ago. I commend APPO on its choice of topic for this roundtable, considering the dire consequences of climate impacts and economic losses arising from gas flaring and methane emissions. Gas flaring and methane emissions are two important concerns that must be addressed by the petroleum industry in Africa if the continent will meet its climate targets and continue to attract investments to its petroleum industry in a sustainable manner. It is important that as APPO member countries, we are aware of this important challenge, engage one another, and exchange ideas on policy measures, state-of-art technologies, and investments needed for minimizing gas flaring and methane emissions in the operations of the industry. The need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions has been an area of global attention over the last century, but has gained traction over the last decade, Mr. Secretary General. The global drive has intensified with the looming negative impacts of climate change and global warming. World leaders have stressed the need to limit global warming to about 1.5 degrees centigrade by the end of the century. This has led to various commitments and pledges from various countries, including Ghana. Gas flaring, the 160-year-old practice of burning natural gas associated with oil extraction, and the related methane emissions represent as much as 12% of the greenhouse gases released by the global energy sector. Gas flaring is therefore a major source of greenhouse emissions, contributing to global warming, which will accelerate the problem of climate change and harsh living conditions on Earth, especially for vulnerable communities, if not checked. Flaring releases carbon dioxide and methane, the two major greenhouse gases. The opportunity cost of gas flaring is huge in terms of productive use of productive uses such as generation of power or petrochemical applications. APPO, for instance, has cited a World Bank study that estimates the amount of gas that is currently being flared each year at about 139 billion cubic meters, enough to power the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, methane is a greenhouse gas with about 80 times more potency to global warming than carbon dioxide. It contributes at least 25% to the rise in global temperature. The oil and gas industry is one of the major sectors that emits methane. As of 2022, the sector was the second highest emitter of anthropogenic methane after agriculture. According to the International Energy Agency, the sector produced a record high amount of methane gas emission in 2023, and thus requires measures from producing countries to reduce methane emissions to as low as possible. Flaring the major emission. The significant quantities of such emissions are from the petroleum sector. It is for this reason that I see APPO's call for this roundtable discussion on flaring and fugitive emissions as apt and timely. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, this two-day roundtable, I believe, would provide opportunities for us to share knowledge, experiences, and strategies to minimize emissions from oil and gas operations. By leveraging modern technologies and best practices to reduce natural gas waste, we are taking long overdue steps that will increase accountability for oil and gas operators and benefit our peoples now and for generations to come. I hope these collective efforts to cooperate to reduce emissions from our operations will not end here, but will continue till we achieve our aim. Let us be guided in our deliberations at this two-day roundtable that energy sustainability is one of the elements of the energy trilemma, the other two being energy security and energy affordability. Energy sustainability enjoins us to maintain current petroleum operations without jeopardizing our energy needs today or climate today, and for generations to come after us. For just as we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but borrow it from our children, we do same with the climate. In conclusion, I thank APPO for choosing Accra for this roundtable. I also thank the joint teams of APPO and the Petroleum Commission Ghana for all the hard work you have put in over the last few months to make this roundtable happen. I place on record the support the Commission has received from our Honorable Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and the Ministry of Energy, and also Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim and the entire APPO Secretariat in organizing this event. Thank you for your attention. God bless Ghana. God bless APPO and its members, and God bless us all. Thank you once again.
Please, let's do it one more time for my Chief Executive, Mr. Egbert Isaac Fable Jr., a CEO of Petroleum Commission Ghana. There is something I forgot to do, and if up until now there had been a disaster, I would have been held responsible. Forgive me for that. At this point in time, I would invite the manager, HSC Petroleum Commission, to come and then do the HSC briefing for us. We still have a long way to go, so it is important we do that. Manager HSC, Mr. Jonathan Nadomite, let's clap for him. An engineer by profession, a seasoned advocate for HSC issues.
Kateno, I'm here to give a brief on our safety and security measures in the hotel. Labadi Beach Hotel has its own emergency fire pump with a total of 12 fire hydrant points. The emergency fire exits are clearly marked at various points of assembly. In case you hear the sound of the fire alarm for the first time, please stand by. If you hear for the second time, which will be continuous, please evacuate to the nearest assembly point. The assembly point is located directly opposite the spa, which is the beach gardens. We have a complete fire team of investigators, marshals, and first aiders to assist you. The hotel has connected a panic alarm system to the Labadi police station. The hotel has a 24-hour security coverage. A total of 108 CCTV cameras has been installed by the hotel at vantage points for your safety and security. We are 3 minutes drive to the Southern Command of the Ghana Armed Forces, 5 minutes drive to the Trade Fair Fire Station, 3 minutes drive to the La Police Station, and 10 minutes drive to the headquarters of the Ghana Police Service. This makes our hotel the most secured 5-star hotel in Ghana. We are also 5 and 10 minutes drive to the Family Health Hospital and the Police Hospital, respectively. We are also signed onto the West African Rescue Association, WARA, to be called upon in case of emergency. The hotel has 3 generators which auto start in 20 seconds.
Hello, my name is Suleimana Abdul Rashid, Deputy Head of Security, Labadi Beach Hotel. Labadi Beach Hotel was awarded the most secure 5-star hotel of the year 2021. We practice what we say we'll do, and we do it well.
We promise you a nice stay with us, and you are warmly welcome to the Labadi Beach Hotel. Akwaba.
Thank you very much, Labadi Beach Hotel, for the HSC briefing. We are missing this from our records, but please, do we have the representative of the Minister for Environment here with us? The rep for the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. Okay, thank you very much. Before we call up here the next speaker, the APPO Secretariat has an anthem in a form of, Linda, what is it? You mentioned something. Instrumentals, right? Yes, please, if you are ready, let us hear that and see what APPO has done for member countries. We should stand up, right? Okay, I want all of us to be on our feet as we listen to the anthem of APPO. Respectfully.
Noble et splendide dessein, de prendre ensemble dans vos mains la destinée pétrolière de notre commune patrie. Ah, vous êtes des libérateurs, suscitez un canal de coopération entre les enfants même de l'Afrique, pour valoriser de nos pays la richesse de l'hydrocarbure. N'est-ce pas une noble aventure d'authentique autonomie et de croissance? Salut moteur africain, du noble et splendide dessein, de prendre ensemble dans vos mains la destinée pétrolière de notre commune patrie. Ah, vous êtes des libérateurs.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's resume our seats. Let's clap for APPO. But please, I don't know if you have the English version for this. Mr. Chananti, do you have that? Then our Director Resource Management and Operations at PC, he did his degree in geoscience in French. When we go back to the office, I will seek the interpretation from him. Mr. Rodakon, you help me. Very well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we are set to listen to the keynote speaker. And our keynote speaker is representing the Honorable Minister for Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. Our keynote speaker for this evening is the Honorable John Kobina Abam Abua Sani. He is a Member of Parliament for Impoho in the Western Region and a Deputy Minister for Energy. Let's give it up for him. Thank you, Honorable.
Dr.
Omar Farouk Ibrahim, Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization, APPO, colleague ministers, chairman, members of the governing body, and the CEO of the Petroleum Commission, Ghana, distinguished staff of APPO, distinguished head of national oil companies, IOCs, institutions in the petroleum sector, representatives from the academia and CSOs, the media, ladies and gentlemen. I take this keynote on behalf of my sector minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. On behalf of the government and the people of Ghana, I wish to welcome all of you to our beautiful city of Accra. I thank you for inviting me to this roundtable themed Ways to Reduce Flaring and Fugitive Methane Emissions. The African Petroleum Producers Organization, APPO, and Ghana Petroleum Commission deserve our commendation for organizing this forum. Ghana formally joined APPO in 2022, and we take our membership of APPO as a charge to help to do more to make APPO even more relevant to the people of the African continent. The collaboration to co-organize and host this gathering on methane emission demonstrates our commitment to reducing emission and also our appreciation of how important climate change impacts our lives. The need to reduce emission is dedicated by the severe impact emission are having on the climate and the collective desire by global leaders to hold average increase in global temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and pursue actions to limit global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius for the next century. Unfortunately, the oil and gas sector that plays a major role in addressing energy poverty and also generate revenue for most producing developing countries falls within the high emitters of methane. The International Energy Agency 2023 Global Methane Tracker indicates that the energy sector, which include oil, natural gas, coal, bioenergy, contributed to about 40% of the methane emission from human activities in 2023. The energy sector, especially oil and gas activities, has therefore faced immense scrutiny to the extent that some are regrettably advocating a complete transition from oil and gas to other forms of so-called environmental friendly energy sources, such as wind and solar energy. Such posturing, in my considered opinion, is not well grounded from the climate and economic policy point of view, and also unfair to emerging oil and gas producing countries, especially those in Africa, since it denies us the potential to fully exploit our hydrocarbon resources to meet our energy and developmental needs in others before us have done. Globally, investment in hydrocarbon exploitation as a result of the call for transition has been under threat. What is intriguing, however, is that a majority of the advocates who are calling for an end to oil and gas exploitation are failing to acknowledge the fact that there could be alternate ways of achieving the goals of limiting global temperature increasing without necessarily prescribing hydrocarbon exploitation completely. If oil and gas producing countries can collectively exploit sustainability by reducing emission
to substantial levels, they stand to benefit from reducing risks of investment, declining, and impact of climate change. Methane emission from oil and gas activities were slightly high in 2023 compared to that of 2022. About 120 million tons were recorded in 2023, which were slightly higher than those recorded in 2022. The IEA nonetheless admitted that around 40% of the emission could have been avoided at no net cost. Africa contributed 1.9% in methane emissions, which is an insignificant fraction. Nevertheless, climate impact have no boundaries. Each country must contribute to abate methane emission. As an Africans, we have the responsibility to join the rest of the world to protect our environment. But we should not be made to bear the disproportionate burden of the global climate agenda. Ghana's desire to limit emissions from its hydrocarbon production facilities was conceived after the first commercial discovery. A no gas flaring policy was adopted, and plans were initiated to build a gas export facility, which include an offshore and onshore pipeline and processing plant. A gas master plan was also developed. However, a delay in completing the gas export facility impacted the implementation of the no flaring policy. Ghana's methane emission in 2023 increased by about 12% from 2022 due to facility challenges encountered from the producing asset. Since the commencement of the commercial hydrocarbon production in 2010, Ghana has emitted a total of about 0.003 million tons, 3,000 tons of methane as at the end of 2023. From the petroleum upstream sector, Ghana demonstrated its commitment to reducing emission by pledging an unconditional 30% reduction in methane emission from the oil and gas sector by 2023. Among others, the country has since undertaken following actions in its bid to meet the pledge. And they are developed a national energy transition framework, which provides the framework need to meet the country's emission commitment. It aims at decarbonizing the energy sector by achieving net zero emission target by the year 2070 in its long-term 2022 to 2070 net zero framework. Develop Ghana Energy Transition and Investment Plan that is built on Ghana's Energy Transition Framework. Develop a draft transition framework for the upstream oil and gas sector, which is currently under review for the deployment as enforceable guideline for Ghana's upstream oil and gas sector. Developing guidelines for plan of development and operations, preparation, submission, and approval. Exploring options for emission and measurement, monitoring, reporting, verification, in addition to what is currently being applied in the sector. Enhancing collaboration with the various sector institutions which manage and regulate emissions and streamline regulatory actions pertaining to the emission. Ghana has made conscious effort to encourage all thermal power producers to utilize gas from producing field, thereby increasing their efficiency whilst reducing flaring from these fields. I expect that the conference will carve a path for APPO member countries to reduce emissions, identify most productive uses of natural gas, and enhance investment in petroleum sector I expect APPO countries to collaborate and share ideas and technologies in reducing emission. In doing so, we should involve indigenous Ghanaian companies in the process of acquisition of emission reduction technologies. We need to demonstrate our commitment and effort to reduce methane emission globally, and I request APPO to champion this cause. Finally, I expect APPO to establish a cross-sectional technical team from member countries to explore options and opportunities in reducing emissions, address the challenges of measurement, verification, reporting, tackling fugitive emission from aging hydrocarbon-producing assets, and enhance investor interest in Africa's hydrocarbon exploitation, producing and utilization for gas-led industrialization. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, Ghana has expressed its unwavering dedication to fight climate change by gradually reducing its emission to a net zero by 2060. The country has developed the necessary framework needed to fulfill its pledge to climate change. And it is of the view that a global collective effort is needed to win the fight against climate change. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today's gathering, indicative of Ghana's preparedness to collaborate and work with other countries, the business community, and all other stakeholders to address climate concern and support responsible exploitation and utilization of petroleum resources. Let us work together to encourage investment in the fledgling oil and gas industry and adopt environmental binding technologies, as well as participation of our citizens in the exploitation and utilization of our natural resources. I thank you once again for this audience and respectfully entreat you to take key interest in the presentation and deliberation that have been lined up in the next 2 days. God bless APPO, God bless Ghana and Africa. Thank you very much.
Please, let's clap one more time for the Honorable Deputy Minister for Energy, Honorable John Abam Aboa Sani. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. I think I am missing my program. My lady, check if it is there. I have written some changes in the panel discussion we're going to have. Okay, you bring me one. It may have messed up with someone else's. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, it is here. Thank you very much. So one of the dominant features of the APPO Roundtable Conference on gas flaring and fugitive methane emissions is the numerous panel discussions that we're going to have. And the idea is to generate discussions and comments and ideas among member countries so that Africa would have a position on gas flaring, on energy transition, and the many other things that confront us in the exploitation of our rich oil and gas resources. So the next item on the agenda is a ministerial session. We've termed it a ministerial session. The idea was that we'll have a blend of ministers and deputy ministers, speaking to the issues. We were able to assemble a number of them across Africa to come. But again, last-minute changes, the presidents would have to redirect their courses to some other places, and so they could not come. But all the same, we are going to have the ministerial session. This session is on the topic government strategies in eliminating routine gas flaring and methane emissions. And the objective for this session is to have decision makers discuss and share with participants their government's approach to eliminate unnecessary gas flaring and methane emissions along the oil and gas industry's value chain. This may include sanctions and incentives to operators, policies, gas utilization infrastructure, funding, participation in international initiatives, monitoring, and control mechanisms. So this is the objective for this session. It's going to be a very interesting session. So I would convert your attention, for this exercise. The moderator for this session, I would invite him here, is Mr. Rodney Acquah. Mr. Rodney Acquah is representing the Chief Executive Officer of the Petroleum Commission. Rodney Acquah is a manager, monitoring and evaluation at the Petroleum Commission. Yes, that is Rodney. Yes, let the applause be louder. He's a very strong man, monitoring and evaluating things in the industry. He's a strong man. Thank you very much, Rodney. Please come. And I think you take them very far and there, yeah. So, on the bill here is Honorable Senator Heineken Lokbobiri, Minister of State for Oil in Nigeria. He could not make it, but he has his representative here. And he is represented by Mrs. Remy Komolafe, Director Gas at the Ministry of Petroleum. Let's clap for her. My wife is a Nigerian, so anytime I see the Yoruba woman, I tend to be happy. Yes. Thank you very much. The next is His Excellency, Dr. Umar Farouk Ibrahim. He is the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization. Let's clap for Secretary General, His Excellency. We also have on the bill Mr. Kosongo Wa Nkenda Magloa. He is the Deputy Minister of Democratic Republic of Congo. He couldn't make it. But we have Mr. Timoleon and Angie Barry. He's the advisor to the Minister of Hydrocarbon in the Republic of Congo. Please, let's clap for him as he comes. And then last but not the least is the Omanhene of Local Content Ghana. He is Nana Kweku Boateng, the Director of Local Content Petroleum Commission. He's also my senior brother. He bisects and dissects local content. So he is a Omanhene. All right. So I think the panel is set. So, Mr. Moderator, the ball is in your court.
Thank you very much, Mr. Apiabrafo. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to this APPO Roundtable Conference. Without much ado, I would like to set the ball rolling before we get so tired and we don't want to participate. So I want to say that methane is, according to Wood Mackenzie, responsible for almost a third of emissions-induced increase in global temperatures. Actually, it is next to carbon dioxide in its impact on climate change. Tracking methane emissions is a very tough challenge. And ladies and gentlemen, you realize that sophisticated equipment or technology is not yet able to detect leakages and stuff like that. So we will still have to go to the basics. That means the industry has to be regimented by using existing solutions, which is monitoring leaks and tightening valves. As you realize, it is not always a case of just waiting for a certain technology before you use what is existing, what has been giving you results in the past. It is upon this basis that 3 government actions have often been touted. And the first one is we need to have a greater ambition, which is implementing policies and enforcing them. Secondly, or what I call the 3 C's, there should be coordination, collaboration, and cooperation between policymakers, regulators, and the industry to set realistic targets and timelines to ensure that we can reduce flaring and venting. And at the same time, we apply the appropriate punishments by way of fines and fees for those who decide to be non-compliant. And ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon here, to help us understand how various governments have used strategies to reduce methane emissions, as you were informed earlier by the MC, are very distinguished personalities who have worked in this industry for so many years and are representing their countries this afternoon. So before I start with the questions, I would just like to give an introductory message, which is large-scale flaring or venting of methane often occurs at oil fields where there is no market for gas and it cannot be monetized. These are described as super emitter events. On the other hand, small-scale operational emissions described as snowballers quickly add up and have various sources, including leaking valves, pneumatic devices, as well as venting from tanks and warehouses. I would like our panelists to discuss strategies which their governments, or for that matter, member countries, in the case of Dr. Umar Farouk, who is representing everyone here. So this first question will go to each of them. And so on the first question is, as a representative of your country, kindly outline strategies which are being deployed to reduce or eliminate methane emissions. What challenges, if any, have been encountered because of the deployment of these strategies? I'd like to start with Remy.
Thank you. Good evening, all. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, thank you for being here. It's actually a great opportunity to stand in for my minister today, who will have been here, but for exigency of duty. And he has told me to represent him. All that we have heard about methane emission, from all we've heard, we know that it is nothing palatable for us. We really need to do something about it. In Nigeria, as we know, by the time we're able to reduce methane emission from the oil and gas industry, we will have done a lot. The percentage will be greatly reduced. And for us, we look at it, we approach it through many strategies. We have strategies for eliminating gas flaring and methane emission. In 2016, the country started the National Gas Flare Commercialization Plan, and it was also re-emphasized, it was relaunched in 2022. The plan there was that all these sites will be given to off-takers who will use the gas instead of just being flared. And everything was put in a basket. After a while, in the first instance, the companies were given the opportunity to use it, to use the flared gas. But after a while, those who didn't take up the opportunity, the sites were put in a basket, and they were bidders called, and they were given out. 48 flare sites were given out, and these are being, there is ongoing development. They were also given time, even these new successful bidders, they were given time during which they must do something fungible. Otherwise, it will still be taken from them and given to those who will actually use the gas for our purpose. Aside that, there was the National Action Plan for short-lived climate pollutants. A plan was made and it was approved so that all this will help us. It was for control of fugitive emissions, methane leak reduction, and for elimination of flaring. That National Action Plan also was also a strategy used. Aside this, in November 2022, some guidelines were released. In fact, they were launched at the Conference of Parties meeting then. Operational flare gas guidelines in upstream was launched. Aside that, we have the guidelines on methane and on methane flaring and emission reduction. In 2021, Nigeria passed the Petroleum Industry Act, and that was another good thing that is really helping us now. With the PIA, it prohibited flaring with serious sanctions. The sanctions were there before, but somehow were not fully, the sanctions were not fully enhanced. But with PIA, it became a very serious matter. The penalties were tougher, and it was meant to reduce flaring by 70%. Also, companies that produced more than 10,000 barrels per day, they had to pay a fine of $2 per 1,000 standard cubic feet of gas flared. Companies that produced less than 10,000 barrels per day paid a fine of $0.5 per 1,000 standard cubic feet of gas flared. And so this really affected, it helped to a great extent. As we have what I would say, stakeholders engagement continues so that people would not, the government is no more talking about it, the government is still talking about it. Aside this, we have some programs. For instance, we have the National Gas Expansion Program. One of the objectives of that National Gas Expansion Program is to enhance the domestic utilization of gas. This thing is about business. If there is no market, people don't want to go into it. But that program, there is a committee for it. The committee goes all out, engaging people, informing, educating, creating awareness on the benefits of gas. And, they promote the use of gas for cooking, clean cooking, power generation, and also for transportation. And it's actually been wonderful. They are causing ripples. They are making waves. The current administration also launched the presidential CNG initiative. And with this, we see that they are also de-emphasizing the use of PMS. Already, there are plans to have vehicles, CNG buses come on board so that gradually as those come in, we reduce the ones we have now. Even in my ministry, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, our staff buses are not using PMS. That has been done so that people will know, yes, we are walking the talk. Also, I want to also mention that the National Council on Climate Change also educates the public, and they get us to know that whatever plans are being made should be climate friendly. all these go on. We have the National Energy Transition Plan and some more. I want to stop here for now.
Thank you so much, Remy. And at this juncture, we will move to Dr. Umar Farouk. Doc.
I think you rather allow those who represent countries to speak first. I'm not a Nigerian here. I'm an African.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. We'll go to the next delegate.
Thank you. I speak in French because my English is not very good. I prefer to speak in French. Déjà, merci. Je voulais remercier les amis de l'APPO pour m'avoir invité, pour avoir invité le ministre que je représente, et profiter de l'occasion pour s'excuser au nom du ministre des Hydrocarbures, M. Jean-Richard Etoile, ministre des Hydrocarbures du Congo, qui voulait bien être là, parce qu'il a insisté par 2 fois à vouloir être là, mais le programme a fait qu'il ne soit pas là, pris par d'autres occasions. À la question de savoir quelle est la stratégie qui a été mise en place au Congo pour réduire les émissions fugitives et en particulier le méthane, nous savons tous la question écologique qui pèse aujourd'hui sur les questions de pétrole et de gaz. Et entre-temps, nous savons aussi que pour la plupart des pays pétroliers et gaziers, c'est la ressource primordiale ou la ressource principale pour aller vers le développement. En plus, c'est de l'énergie. Alors, cette contrainte, pour ne pas aller à l'encontre, appelle à la mise en place, donc, à la mise en place des technologies que nous appelons technologies propres. À l'époque, le Code des hydrocarbures congolais, à l'époque, ne prévoyait pas la valorisation du gaz. Donc, dans ce cas, tout permis qui était attribué pour une recherche pétrolière et les gaz qui étaient issus de cette transformation, de cette exploration, étaient considérés, comme on le disait, comme déchets, donc qu'on ne devait pas valoriser. La première idée que la République a eu à prendre, c'est de mettre en place depuis 2007 un texte de loi, un décret qui demandait, qui imposait aux sociétés pétrolières la valorisation du gaz issu de leur exploration, soit le gaz naturel, le gaz associé. Donc de 2007 à aujourd'hui, je dirais à 2002, ce texte a prévalu. Mais comme l'a dit ma consoeur du Nigeria, ce texte n'a pas donné les résultats escomptés. Il a encouragé justement la valorisation du gaz issu de l'exploitation pétrolière. Certaines sociétés ont accepté de se lancer et d'autres non. Et cela a appelé en 2022 à durcir justement la loi. Et la loi étant durcie, nous avons pris en 2022, octobre 2022 si je ne me trompe pas, un texte de loi qui durcissait les conditions et ce dernier appelait à des sanctions et à des infractions. Mais au-delà des sanctions, le but ou le principe du texte était de conduire les sociétés à un zéro torchage ou zéro éventage. Certaines sociétés ont commencé à reprendre. C'est ce qui nous a conduit à la mise en place du projet Congo LNG, d'un projet de liquéfaction du gaz naturel issu d'un des permis exploités par une société pétrolière de la place. et d'autres sociétés sont en train de suivre. Parmi les sanctions ou les infractions prévues, on y va jusqu'à le retrait du permis si jamais la société n'arrivait pas à respecter les exigences prévues par les textes. En plus de cela, vu que l'objectif n'est pas de se faire uniquement de l'argent sur la question écologique, mais plutôt de résoudre la problématique de la pollution, donc la problématique des gaz à effet de serre, il est exigé depuis ce texte de 2002 à chaque société, que ce soit dans le permis ancien ou dans les nouveaux permis, avant la signature du permis, la présentation d'un plan de valorisation. Plan de valorisation du gaz naturel ou associé, issu du permis qu'ils sont en train de demander. Le message commence à passer parce qu'on a 2-3 sociétés sur une quinzaine ou une vingtaine qui commencent à suivre. C'est toujours difficile, comme a dit la consoeur du Nigeria. Difficile parce que la valorisation du gaz appelle à des coûts supplémentaires. Appelle à des coûts supplémentaires et souvent les sociétés présentent le fait que le gaz qu'on leur demande de valoriser n'est pas commercial. Donc, la rentabilité commerciale pour eux n'y est pas. Alors là, dans les textes, la République a prévu, c'est vrai que ce n'est pas encore entré en vigueur parce qu'il faut des investissements et mise en place des entreprises qui vont s'organiser, à inciter à la mise en place des joint ventures qui peuvent collecter à la place des sociétés pétrolières qui sont sur leur permis ces gaz pour les stocker et après trouver un modèle de traitement ou de valorisation. Nous avons des demandeurs dans plusieurs secteurs de l'industrie non pétrolière. Donc l'industrie des mines, l'industrie, l'agroalimentaire, qui sont demandeurs de gaz. Donc on peut en ce moment valoriser ce gaz dans ces différents secteurs, puisque les pétroliers, eux, pensent que ce gaz n'était pas rentable pour eux. Voilà à peu près ce que la République du Congo a prévu. Et derrière, la République a travaillé sur la mise en place d'un plan directeur gaz. Et c'est ce plan qui prévoit tout ce que je viens de dire. Des avancées significatives, bien que lents, arrivent, parce que, comme j'ai dit tantôt, c'est du business, c'est la question de l'argent, c'est la question des coûts. Derrière, il faut réduire la pollution, mais après, il faut investir pour réduire cette pollution. Donc, les parties s'entendent, mais la loi reste coercitive, comme on l'a dit. Et si les sociétés ne respectent pas, ça appelle à des sanctions. Et il est demandé aux sociétés, chaque fois qu'ils veulent torcher, de prendre une autorisation. Et la mise à disposition de cette autorisation exceptionnelle de torchage est issue d'une enquête d'utilité publique. Donc, la société doit justifier la raison du torchage, justifier la quantité, la qualité et montrer qu'il n'y avait pas d'autres alternatives que torcher. Et entre-temps, le texte prévoit l'utilisation du gaz pour des besoins industriels, donc en interne de la société opératrice. Par exemple, je dirais donc l'autoconsommation, qui peut être, le gaz peut être utilisé pour booster la production en huile, donc du gaz libre. Le gaz peut être utilisé pour créer une centrale thermique interne pour pallier aux problèmes d'électricité en milieu industriel. Le texte prévoit cela et donne aux sociétés la possibilité de le faire, mais pas la possibilité de torcher. Et le torchage, lui, il est assujetti à la demande d'une autorisation exceptionnelle, parce qu'en réalité, nous ne voulons plus torcher. Voilà un peu la stratégie du Congo en matière de réduction de méthane et de gaz fugitifs. Merci.
Thank you so much, our delegate from DRC. Sorry, I didn't catch the name when the MC. Sorry, I didn't catch the name when the MC introduced you. I ought to say, let's go to the Director of Local Content, who is representing Ghana, Mr. Kweku Boati.
Thank you, Rodney. As the moderator said, I'm representing my CEO, who is also representing the Honorable Minister. The caveat is that if I say anything sensible, I say it on behalf of the CEO and the Minister. But if I say anything controversial, I'm on my own. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting the Commission to be part of this panel discussion on such an important subject on gas flaring and emission reduction. Ghana, as an emerging oil and gas country, look at the petroleum industry as a very important one. One, for the revenue that it generates to support our economy, and two, the value chain production sector also provides significant support to our economy. And therefore, any call for Ghana to transition immediately to zero emission targets by way of substituting renewable energy for oil and gas will be a challenge for us. We support the global call for gas reduction, gas flaring, and emission reduction to improve our climate. However, we believe that we also need to be given the opportunity to exploit our God-given resources in a sustainable manner and to prevent our resources from being stranded, and at the same time minimize the impact of the production and utilization of petroleum resources on the global climate. On this note, Ghana has put in a number of measures to ensure that while exploiting these valuable resources, we also minimize its adverse impact on global climate. And the action that we have put in place can be look at it at the two levels. One at the supranational level, at the policy level, by Government of Ghana, or the Ministry of Energy, and the two is at the regulatory and operator level by the regulators in the sector, namely Petroleum Commission and EPA, and Environmental Protection Agency, as well as the operating entity. And when the Honorable Minister spoke, he outlined a number of policy interventions to minimize gas flaring and methane emission in Ghana. One, he mentioned that Ghana has adopted National Energy Transition Framework, which outlines our target to achieve net zero emission by 2070 and completely decarbonize the oil and gas sector. Ghana has set a target to reduce fugitive methane emission by 20% by 2030. And indeed, Ghana perhaps is the first country that was, after COP26, was able to incorporate gas fugitive emission reduction into its nationally determined commitment. And the country is committed to that. We, at the national level, we are also developing National Energy Transition Framework as part of our emission reduction target, which a draft is ready to be sent to the minister and the cabinet for approval. Minister also talked about our energy policy, which outlines zero gas flaring at the operating facilities. We, immediately after we discovered oil in 2007, the government, in order to find useful usage of gas, came out with a policy on zero gas flaring to ensure that all gas that we produce will find productive use by way of power generation and petrochemical applications. However, the delay in the establishment of gas processing facility and minimize opportunity for gas export initially led to a gas flaring. However, within a short period of time, we were able to put up our gas processing plant and associated transportation facility, which minimized the gas flaring in the country. At the regulatory level, the Petroleum Commission also supports the government agenda of minimizing the gas flaring. Our laws, the Petroleum Act, Act 919, and other regulations require that all companies seek approval anytime they want to flare excessive amount of gas. And the Commission will look at it and see the logic and the sense in it before giving approval. We also operate a permitting approval regime, whereby we grant approval for any gas that is being flared. Therefore, in collaboration with Ministry of Energy, anytime a request comes for flaring, we look at the resource management implication of it and advise the Honorable Minister to grant approval before the EPA, which superintends upon our environmental issues here, give the companies approval to flare. At the regulatory level, we also undertake inspections on facilities to assess where the flaring occurs and offer suggestions to companies to reduce flaring. The Commission is also undertaking methane inventory to identify the source and the type of flaring, where the flaring is coming from, whether from the field operations, from the processing facilities on the FPSO, or from the transportation or the end user level, to identify where the flaring is coming from and how we can reduce fugitive emission from those facilities. We are also looking at the preparation of field development plan, or the POD. In the past, the POD preparation focused mainly on the deployment of the state-of-art technology to achieve efficiency in field development and minimize dollar cost per barrel. The focus on fugitive emissions or gas flaring has traditionally been part of the requirement of POD preparation and approval process. The Commission is in the advanced stage of coming out of POD guidelines, where investment in methane emission will be part of the approval process of the field development plans. The guideline is in preparation, is almost ready, and will be sent to our sector minister for approval. We also, in conjunction with the other stakeholders, are reviewing the various guidelines and legislation to identify regulatory gaps. In the existing upstream sector, there are a number of regulatory bodies that have jurisdiction over oil and gas. I mentioned the EPA, and sometimes they tend to be, their roles are not very harmonized in terms of who have the ultimate responsibility for controlling emissions. Plans are underway, discussions are underway to make sure that various stakeholders who have the responsibility ensuring that we minimize emission harmonize their activities so that a clear signals will be sent to oil and gas companies. And lastly, what I'll mention is that as part of our incentive regulatory mechanism, we are tying the investment in gas flaring reduction, emission reduction to approve emission target. As I said, the companies always yearly submit to the commission their target for gas emission or gas flaring, which we give approval. Now, starting from last year, 2023, we target or we tie all the requests for gas flaring and methane emission target to investment in gas and gas flaring strategies. So last year, for instance, the main operator of our Jubilee field, through such strategy, they were able to reduce significantly their emission targets from around 55 MSCAPs per day to around 35 MSCAPs per day in 2024, in the sense that through such targeted incentives, they made a lot of investment in emission reduction strategy, which they achieved significant reduction in the gas flaring and methane emission.
Thank you. Gas flaring and fugitive methane emissions have been part of the history of the industry. For 150 years, in the life of the history of oil and gas, particularly oil, we've been flaring and emissions have also taken place. It never became an issue until the world began to talk about moving away from fossil fuels to renewable energies in the last 50 years or so. And we've all lashed to that campaign. In my opening remarks, I had noted that we do this for two reasons. One is to protect the climate. The other is to also see if we can save this energy for our people. Now, what I see happening particularly in underdeveloped countries that have been blessed with fossil fuels, oil and gas, is that in coming up with regulations on how to handle gas flaring and fugitive methane emissions, we seem to be more focused on the punitive part, that is, on the climate challenge issue, how to protect the environment. Not so much on what to save in order to give your people energy. And in doing so, if you focus more on the climate challenge, the likelihood of your coming up with rules and regulations that are really punitive, sanctions to the industry are greater. One needs to ask, for countries in Africa that didn't contribute, I mean, we are said to have contributed 3% of the emissions. What is our key objective? I'm talking about the regulators, FERBL and others. What is our key objective in making regulations on gas flaring and fugitive methane emissions? Are we more interested in complying with directives from the people who destroyed the common patrimony of all of us and are telling us today that, look, you need to stop? When you come up with some of these regulations, you make the industry a lot more expensive for people to operate in. And this is happening at a time when those on whom we have depended to operate the industry, either financing or technology or expertise or even markets, have decided to abandon us. My feeling is that while it is good to do this, our main concern should not be because some institution called the World Bank is saying that there is this global gas flaring initiative which they are supporting, or we are doing it because some institutions in Europe or America are saying that if they see you complying, they are going to support you. The earlier we took decisions based on our own conviction that we are doing this for the good of our countries and our peoples, the better for it. I think what I see really in a number of our member countries is that I can't see that distinction between are we doing this because we are forced to do it by the world, or we want to be good guys in the face of the world, or we truly believe that this is something that we must do in the interest of our own people and our own continent.
Thank you so much, Dr. Umar Farouk Ibrahim, for that incisive message. Because of time, what we are going to do in this round is that the three panelists from representing the three countries here will take a question, and then we'll reserve the last question for Dr. Umar Farouk Ibrahim. So let me go back to Mr. Boateng. You spoke about the national determined contributions, Ghana being one of the first countries in the APPO membership countries to set the pace. So this round of questions is going to talk about nationally determined contributions. I'll start with you once again, Mr. Boateng. How have methane emissions reduction targets been integrated into the nationally determined contributions plans in Ghana? I'll take the question again. How have methane emissions reduction targets been integrated into the nationally determined contribution plans in Ghana?
Okay, yeah. I said in my area remarks, Ghana has prepared national determined commitment, which outlines the country's plan to decarbonize the oil and gas sector and achieve net zero emissions by 2070. And there has been a national blueprint, which probably is also in the draft form for methane emission. And that blueprint outlines sector by sector the emission targets for each sector: transportation, mining, construction, agriculture, oil and gas. And within oil and gas sector, a target have been set to achieve 20% by 2030, and then between 2030 and 2070 to achieve almost zero methane emission. So this requires that certain activities and investment should be undertaken. So the nationally determined targets, one, outline the investment needed to achieve net zero by 2017 in oil and gas sector. In petroleum sector, for instance, one of the targets is that all thermal power plants should be converted into thermal plants that use liquid fuel as a feedstock should be converted to gas. And the LCO, the liquid oil or diesel, should only be used as a backup feedstock So that's one of the targets, to minimize, because the emission from the oil is about 20 or so times from the emission from gas. So in during the transition framework, we are going to move away from the liquid fuel as a feedstock for power plant to gas-based feedstock. That's one target. And two, the plan also requires that we review our development concept for installation of oil facilities and the place of oil facilities. Now, one challenge that we have in our existing trade producing fields is the development concept that we approve. We're very quite rigid. We don't have much redundancy in most of the field operations. So when you look at the gas compressors, the pumps, and the turbines, the redundancy on the operation trade fields is very low, very tight. So the time there's upset with the work characteristics, then you have a challenge, and the option is to flare. The same to applying to the gas export facility. The gas export facility has little or no redundancy, and therefore, when there's an upset, the operators have no means to evacuate the gas than to flare. So the nationally determined commitments require that we review our development concept to make sure that enough redundancies are created in our field development concept. Another challenge, which the nationally determined commitment also try to look at, is the issue of the aging assets. Our fields are, though not so old as in, say, Nigeria. Yeah, most of the facilities are just about 15 years old, but they are quite aging. And when assets age or facilities age, their reliability also diminishes. And now, so because the reduction in the reliability, there's a need for routine maintenance of these facilities. However, for companies to do the routine maintenance, it's also a function of economics. They look at the economics of just investing in routine maintenance against allowing some gas to be flared. So because of the appetite for early cost recovery among the operators, they prefer reactive maintenance to preventive maintenance. And therefore, the maintenance culture has more of reactive than preventive. And this has also resulted in flaring. So if you look at the national determined commitment, one focus is that you have to move away from the reactive maintenance to preventive maintenance so that you enhance the reliability of assets, the compressors, the turbines, and the pumps, to minimize fugitive emissions from the valves and other production facilities. And lastly, I also talk about the regulatory gap that was also identified in our NDCs. Ghana, Madama, like Nigeria, which has national regulations which requires the oil and gas companies to reduce the methane emissions in gas flaring. Ghana doesn't have any law, specific law or regulations. And I think our Congress in Nigeria will come out with such regulations requiring the companies to minimize or reduce emission targets. So one of the provisions in nationally determined commitment is that we should have to come out with enforceable regulations that will set targets for all companies operating in the sector to minimize methane emission. And I hear Secretary General Farouk say, he made a very good point that it should not be so much emphasis on the stick, but rather create, if I hear you well, ideal economic incentives for the companies to reduce their emissions. And I think that's one area that we also look at. If you look at our nationally determined commitments, there's an investment framework which creates the necessary economic incentives for the companies to invest in emission reduction assets so that they can minimize the fugitive emission and reduce the gas flaring. So these are some of the things that have been incorporated in our nationally determined goals as part of our global commitment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Watson. So we go to Mr. Timoleon to tell us about what nationally determined commitments, how they have been integrated into your plans in DRC.
Merci beaucoup. Je crois que l'essentiel a été dit dans ce que j'ai dit précédemment, que l'objectif au niveau national, comme l'a dit le secrétaire général, n'est pas surtout d'aller vers le respect uniquement des normes environnementales, mais d'encourager, en fait, à la valorisation de ce gaz, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, qui est important pour le pays, pour la population, la production d'énergie, qui est, c'est très bien l'élément ou la partie faible de l'Afrique. Parce que l'énergie, on en a besoin pour se développer. Et là, je suis dans la même ligne que le secrétaire général, que nous ne voulons pas et nous ne devons pas faire de la réduction des gaz fugitifs pour plaire à la réduction des gaz à effet de serre, mais pour se développer. Justement, dans ce cadre, le gouvernement prévoit pour toute société qui s'engage dans la valorisation du gaz de partager le risque. Le risque, justement, d'investissement. C'est ça qui fait reculer les sociétés. Parce qu'une société qui s'est engagée dans un permis huile et qu'après il se retrouve avec du gaz associé, il est très difficile d'apporter des investissements dans ce sens. Et le gouvernement accepte de partager le risque, donc d'aller s'associer à cette société, développer la partie gaz. C'est ce qu'on a fait dans le projet Congo LNG avec une société, la société italienne. Et les objectifs, c'est ce que nous avons dit, l'objectif c'est aller vers le zéro torchage. Mais pas pour, justement, oui, réduire l'empreinte écologique du pays, mais surtout pour le développement, surtout pour récupérer ce gaz, surtout pour utiliser ce gaz à des fins surtout locales. Parce que nous sommes en train de préparer le code gazier, parce que depuis, nous travaillons avec les exceptions du code des hydrocarbures, qui lui n'était pas trop développé dans la gestion du gaz. Et nous avons un projet, un code gazier qui est presque à la sortie. Donc nous aurons un code des hydrocarbures et un code du pétrole, du pétrole et un code gazier. Et ce code gazier, justement, est fait pour bien définir la place de la gestion de l'exploitation gazière en République du Congo. Et ce code, justement, résout tous ces problèmes que nous avons de fixation d'objectifs dans la gestion du gaz, dans la gestion des émissions fugitives, dans la valorisation du gaz. Voilà en gros ce que la République prévoit, mais les objectifs restent les mêmes. Zéro torchage, éviter le torchage parce que ce gaz, on en a besoin. Et le code prévoit même la priorité au marché local, donc la priorité d'utilisation de ce gaz pour la République. S'arranger à ce que le dernier Congolais puisse trouver le gaz devant sa porte. Et ce sont les objectifs que l'État essaie de se fixer. En attendant d'y arriver, d'adopter le code et d'avancer dans ce sens. Et sinon, comme tous les États, réduire l'empreinte carbone est une exigence qui, aujourd'hui, s'est accrochée au développement, mais nous ne devons pas oublier que nous avons besoin, et je reviens toujours sur ce qu'a dit le secrétaire général, de cette énergie pour nous développer. Merci.
Thank you so much, Timoleon. So for that second round of questions, we will listen to Remy, and then we'll go to our final round of questions, which will only be answered by Dr. Umar Farouk. So Remy.
Thank you, sir. Actually, Nigeria submitted the first nationally determined contribution in 2015, and it was revised in 2021. We have two targets. there is the unconditional contribution of reducing emissions by 20% below the business as usual level by 2030. That means the country will do everything possible, put all efforts into it and get it done. And then for the same period also, we plan to increase its, that is the conditional target, to reduce to 47% by the same year. And actually, we are committed to it. As it is, in my earlier submission, I mentioned the National Council on Climate Change, the Energy Transition Plan, and some agencies that are also established for the purpose of monitoring this and helping us to achieve it. I also want to be on the side of the Secretary General by agreeing that it shouldn't be punitive. Actually, in Nigeria, we try to have a balance. Yes, we don't believe that we should leave our resources because some people are saying we should now. They had their own time and they enjoyed it. This is our time. We also want to have our own time and enjoy it. In fact, in Nigeria, we say for us, gas is a transition fuel. It is our pride, is the bride. And that's what we are focusing on. So we employ policy, we have regulatory frameworks, and we have incentives. I mentioned policy earlier on and the regulatory framework, but I think they didn't talk about incentives. For instance, incentives directed at two major stakeholders. In order to make people have access to energy, I talked about the National Gas Expansion Program. And that committee goes about educating, especially the rural areas, on their need of cooking gas. What it also does is that the committee meets with gas companies, and as their social responsibility, they get them to commit to give out some cylinders, for pilot use. They give to some of these areas, the rural areas they go to. And it's like the system the communication companies did. They gave you SIM when they were at the onset, and when they had given you that free SIM, with free, they recharged it to an extent. By the time that expired, you are willing to buy more, having known that you need it. The same method is being applied. And so you see that more of those who did not have access to energy, who preferred, the normal firewood, as many as are able to afford it, they now see the reason to change. Government is doing that. Also, on the part of the investors, the government is actually, there are some waivers that gas companies are given. For instance, if you are importing some gas equipment, you don't pay duty on it. You apply for the import duty exemption certificate. They normally apply to my ministry. We look at it, we look at their profile, we look at the things they want to import, and we examine it based, in line with our own policy trusts. And where we see it okay, we recommend to Ministry of Finance where the waiver is actually, they are giving the certificate. And recently, we monitored some of those who had imported things. And the general story, the general remark was that the waiver helped them, the amount of money they saved by the use of that waiver was encouraging to them. Also, I could say, because of the activities of that committee, more people are now realizing the advantages of using gas. In fact, I was opportune to attend a meeting of that committee with the Nigerian Air Force, where the Air Force had requested that they want their fleet of vehicles to be converted, even not with this, before this current administration. We also have some investors who are so eager and they are willing. We have housing estates that's already being reticulated, for the use of gas. There are also people in hospitality industry that confessed that when they changed to gas, for power generation, to heat water and such like, they actually had reduction in their overhead costs. And so we see that by the time you look at these special units and you combine them, we are really making, we are having it. We are getting there. It may be slow for a while, but I think it will just increase. And also presently, the ministry for this 2024 budget year, the ministry has one of its projects is to take inventory of the oil and gas infrastructure we have all over the nation, and it's with a view to examine their current status in line with what obtains now, so that things, those that need to be improved upon, will be done. Those that need to be just left out, to be changed, will be changed. And all this towards having this NDC fulfilled. We are also working not just for oil and gas. Like I said, we have bodies that are coordinating. And there is these special agro-processing zones. The nation has that. And in one of their meetings, we were there and we told them, we were able to convince them that as they're having these agro-processing zones, gas should be used as the fuel to power all these things. We are working on that. In all these small areas, by the time you combine, in as much as oil and gas is a culprit in emission, agriculture is also a culprit. So by the time we're able to reduce it in agriculture, reduce it in power generation, reduce it, in our own operation too, we will get there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Remy, and those were very good insights from Nigeria. Our final question is directed to the Secretary General of APPO, Dr. Umar Farouk Ibrahim. Doc, let's do a little bit of financing here. Doc, what are the financing solutions to reduce natural gas flaring and methane emissions?
Let me please give me a second to address this question you've asked some of our member countries. Anytime I hear African countries speak about nationally determined contributions, I feel kind of very uncomfortable. We are very good at producing excellent documents in the name of NDCs, taking them to COPs, etc. And I know for a fact that there are a number, not one, not two, not three countries in Africa who, when they set out to produce their nationally determined contributions, which they take to the COPs meetings, are assisted by quote-unquote experts from the EU, from European countries, sometimes even from the World Bank. They come to their capitals, they sit with you to help you determine how best to write this. The reality of these documents that you are held to produce is that you can't meet it. Seriously. Because those guys come to help you make statements that the world will say that all of us are in this business together. The third world, Africa, is on it. And the sad thing about this thing is that when we make these commitments, sometimes we feel like it's voluntary. Believe me, it appears voluntary today. It will not be voluntary in the next 25 years. You are going to be asked to implement what you have committed to, or you are going to be sanctioned by the powerful countries. And because of our heavy dependence on these people and our unfortunate lifestyle, especially of our elites, any sanctions from the powerful countries of the West will just destroy our thinking and everything. We are not ready to go through some tough times. So if we are the ones who really sit down to write these NDCs, we will write what we believe is possible. But because we sit with these people and we want to be in their good books, let me be very frank. People sit with these people and they say, okay, come to Paris, come to Belgium, come to London, come to the US for further conversation. And the people who leave our countries to go to these places are more interested in the overseas travels and the escapades, etc. I mean, this is a reality. So until we really get rid of this mentality, believe me, we will just be deceiving ourselves. I'll come to your question about financing. One of the institutions that has been pumping money into this global gas flaring initiative is the World Bank. And that was why I had asked the question, are we really doing this because we believe in it? We believe it's in our best interest today, tomorrow, and later? Or we are doing it because somebody is enticing us, dangling something before us, and we are running after it? To them, what they give us is really nothing, it's pittance. But to us, we see it like. So until we change our thinking about this, we're not going to get there. And this brings me to the issue or the question of financing the industry on the African continent. I did say a while ago that the time has come for Africa to be able to finance its oil and gas industry. I have never believed when people say that we are too poor to buy energy, we are too poor to run the oil and gas industry because it is very expensive. No. The correct thing to say is that we have not been able to prioritize our expenditure. And I'll give you a good example. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Ghana can be excused from this, Lucas. Luckily, you didn't get oil in 2001 or 2000. You got, no, you did in 2010. By 2010, Ghana had oil. So you're equally guilty. In 2002, oil prices ranged between $22 and $28. If oil price went beyond $28, OPEC considered it too high for the global economy, and they will increase production by 500,000 barrels a day. If it goes below $22 per barrel, for 5 days, they will reduce production by 500,000 barrels a day. So the global production about that time was 82 million barrels a day. By 2008, in a matter of 5 years, oil price had moved from $22 to nearly $150 per barrel. And global production had moved from 82 million barrels to about 87 million barrels. Every African country had increased its production. We made hundreds of billions of what you call windfall. If that was so, and we knew that oil industry was the mainstay of our economies. What did we do to control that industry in terms of financing, in terms of technology, in terms of expertise, in terms of creating the energy infrastructure that will allow us to be able to trade energy amongst ourselves? We didn't. We were rather spending money on luxury items. 4 years ago, there was COVID. In April 2020, the world was saying, come and take a barrel of oil and we'll give you $37 to go and find a place to dump it. By October, when our member countries were preparing their budget for 2021, there was not a single African country that projected a budget of more than $50 per barrel. But by September the following year, in 2021, oil prices were over $80, $81, $82. Ladies and gentlemen, when we say we don't have money, we are just trying to deceive ourselves. We have the money. All we need to do is let's identify what is in our long-term interest as a continent and as a people, put our money there, and in the next 5 to 15 years, you will see how Africa will change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Umar Farouk Ibrahim, as usual, very exciting. At this juncture, I think our distinguished panelists have done a marvelous job. I think they deserve a round of applause. Another one. I don't know what Mr. MC has to say, but I think we can take a few questions from the audience. And so if you have any questions for any of the panelists, please can you raise a hand for us to give you the mic? Contribution.
Thank you very much. My name is David Afukwanta. I'm with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The discussion is really interesting, and it's great that we come from all across Africa to converge here. I teach a course on energy. So in this course, we spend time to analyze the numbers on emissions, the numbers on, the global energy market. And I can tell you, I think Africa is being pushed, and we should transition. We're going to transition. I mean, there is no point in insisting that we're going to, stick the old ways. We should transition on our own terms. We should not push it. Let me, as you were talking, I was just looking up a few numbers. Last year there was an explosion, the Nord Stream. No one is interested in investigating that. It was the single largest incident of methane emission. No one is interested. Now here we are, Africa, now developing, depending significantly on its hydrocarbon resources. And an agenda has been set for us. My suggestion is this. Let's look at the business case for the, utilization of methane emissions, the fugitive emissions. Let's look at the business case. So we build our plans around the business case for it. There has to be a business. If there's no business case for it, then we should not be having this conversation. So please, in the next couple of days, the next 2 days, the conversations will be more interesting. but this is something I feel very passionate about. I mean, I research significantly to solar energy. There are very few people in this country who have published a lot more technology than I have. But when I hear the minister, for instance, he was talking about Ghana's energy transition up to 2060. In that document, they quote about 160 gigawatts of solar presenting about 80% of our electricity. I can tell you on authority, it's a pipe dream. It's not going to work. And His Excellency said it right. When our documents, are prepared for us by so-called experts, these are the things you find in it. So, yeah, just something I wanted to get off my chest. Thank you very much. So, photographer, we want to take the photo. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Nana Boateng. Thank you, Emilio. Thank you very much. Mr. Moderator, thank you very much. Thank you. We are actually almost coming to the end of today's session. We have an activity to conduct, and after that we have a photo session. After the photo session, we would go for we have for everyone to eat and drink. So please don't go yet. Have a cocktail session. Now we realize that Roundtable Conference to Ghana, and the Commission is very proud to be a host to the program and also to our very distinguished delegates who have come from their home countries to Accra. And we think that it is not an easy thing to do when you leave your home, your family, the work you do, and you come here to think about Africa. Harness our resources in an environmentally sustainable manner. So the Commission has put together a gift for our international delegates. And of course, we reserve that for last because we would then want to know how many countries that we have here. So we have a stool for every international delegate. And the stool, give me one, let me see. We have a Dinkra symbol. I think we did capture that. I don't know if we have it with the IT team to project that on the screen, but we have the Dinkra symbols are very unique symbols to Ghana. And we have the symbols that we say APPO 2024 Ghana. So this is going to be a memorable gift for all our international delegates. At this time, I will call on the chairman of the governing board of the Petroleum Commission, Mr. Steven Setrabankwa, to come. He will present to a batch, after which our chief executive will also present the stools. But let's clap for our board chairman. Yes. A very hard-working board chairman. If you come and see the way they come for meetings in the office, morning 8 till 10 p.m., they are working very hard for Ghana. Chairman, thank you very much. So, Harriet, you will support
support chairman, and you will support chief. So please, once we call your name, please come and receive your gift from our board chairman. And the first to be called is His Excellency Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim, is the Secretary. Yes. Chairman, I learned the meanings and I've forgotten. And IT team, please, you have them. You don't have it. Oh. You know what? Chairman has said it. Tomorrow, as we convene here, you have the meanings for you so that as you go back home, which one? Okay, yeah, Chairman, Sankofa is excellence, right? The first one, this one. Mr. Watson, is that the first one is excellence? No, the chairman says no. Sankofa is going back to history. Yes, tomorrow we'll have all of them beautifully explained for everyone. Yes. Jinyame is except God. Except God, that is Jinyame. That's right. Yes. So you present to chairman, chairman will put it around your neck. And His Excellency is from the APPO Secretariat, headquartered in Congo. Wow, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Thank you, His Excellency. Yeah, the next to be called Dr. Taher Naja, Director, Research, APPO Secretariat. Dr. Naja. We've been working together very hard on the planning for this conference. Thank you very much, Dr. Naja. The next is Sagi Teati Chananti. Sagi Richard, also APPO Secretariat from Congo. The next is Mrs. Temilola George, APPO Secretariat. Temi. Thank you, Temi. The next is Mr. Jean-Michel Akosi, is the Project Management Analyst at the APPO Secretariat. Mr. Akosi, thank you for coming. And the next is Mrs. Carmen Fifame Todonu, also of the APPO Secretariat. Fifame, thank you for coming. We also have Mrs. Martins Ronis from Sonangol, Angola. Yes, Mrs. Martins, thank you, from Sonangol, Angola. And the next is Mrs. Jill Nazareth, also with Sonangol, Angola. Mrs. Jill Nazareth, are you here? Good, good, good. And then Mr. Meso Juliao Andre, Sonangol, Angola. Sorry, I hear I'm going too fast. Take your picture, please. This is very important. Yeah, take the picture with the chairman. Yes, that is Mr. Meso Juliao Andre. We have Agostino Livaldo. Yes, it's Agostino Livaldo. Is here also from Sonangol, Angola. We also have the representative of the Chief Executive Officer of the Uganda National Oil Company, Madam Proscovia Nabanja. She couldn't come, but she's represented by Dr. Loida Chichoncho. Loida Chichoncho. She is the head of exploration and new ventures at UNOC, Uganda. I love the name, Chichoncho. And then we have Mr. Phillips Obita, is the general manager upstream, UNOC. Mr. Phillips Obita. Okay. Thank you very much. Chairman, I think your assignment is ended. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Now I call on the Chief Executive Officer of the Petroleum Commission, Mr. Egbert Isaac Fable Jr., to do the next batch of presentations. So we have Mr. Ajaji A. Charles, Ministry of Energy and Mines, Benin. Yes, Mr. Charles Ajaji. And then we have Mrs. Oluremi Komolafe, Director Gas, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Nigeria. Thank you, Madam Remy. We have Engineer Jude Amopi Choku Eke. Yes, he's also from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Nigeria. Is Engineer Anyawu here? Pardon me? Oh, he's coming today. Okay, okay. So will someone receive on his behalf? Engineer Genesee Anyawu. Or tomorrow? Okay, yeah. Or he will take it by himself tomorrow. That's good. Okay. So then it's Mr. Christian Hippolyte here from Congo. It's not? Okay, it's not. Okay. Timoleon Angie Barry, advisor on gas valorization, Republic of Congo. The next is Fabrice Davi Okasa. Fabrice is not here. Okay. Mr. Yabo Kaku Seraphine. Kaku Seraphine. Good. He's from the Ministry of Petroleum, Energy, and Renewable Energies, Cote d'Ivoire. Ministry in Cote d'Ivoire. The next is Mr. Koulibaly Mamadou. Yes, Koulibaly Mamadou is the head of Environment Unit at the Ministry of Petroleum in Cote d'Ivoire. So that concludes the international delegates we have. Those that will arrive today, and then tomorrow we will present to them. Thank you very much, Chief, for doing us the honors. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a photo shoot outside. All of us are going to have a photo shoot outside, after which we will delve into the cocktail session, a networking session, eat, drink, talk, chat, and let's think about Africa, the gas flaring. And tomorrow morning, thank you, Nii, tomorrow morning, we start exactly at 9 a.m. And tomorrow is filled with panel discussions. Very insightful panel discussions for us to hold here. So thank you very much. Let's go out for photo shoot. Yes, George? Oh, no, tomorrow. Yeah, we'll do tomorrow. Thank you. Oh, we'll do the picture here? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, we'll do the picture here. So please, everybody. Some will stand. Yes, and some will stand. Some will stand up here. Some will stand down. I think I'll be up here. Okay. So, please bring some chairs. We'll put some chairs first. Some will stand behind the chairs, and some will also stand on the stage. Ushers, bring some chairs quickly. So, Chairman and Chief, His Excellency will bring about 8 chairs. Bring some here. About 8 chairs. And the rest, some will stand at the back and some will stand on the stage here.